What's going on, everybody? There are no undefeated teams left in the NBA. Celtics are handed their first loss of the season, 114 to 109 against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I think going into tonight, the Timberwolves are the number one defense, the C's are the number one offense, and that's the type of game we got, just two styles kind of clashing. It was a gritty, grinded out game. You got guys in foul trouble, you got shots not falling, you get overtime. For the sixth game of the year, this is what you want to see as a fan. Two teams digging deep to find a way to win. I thought the C's got off to a tremendous start. There was that Porzingis block, that Drew steal that led to two fast breaks that got dunks for both of the Jays. Momentum felt like it was on the Celtics side early, but I got to give a lot of credit to the Timberwolves. They put that to bed quick and mucked it up. Jalen picked up two quick ones, so did Al. No D White. And we had Mazzulla going 9 deep into the bench in the first quarter. Tonight was a game you definitely missed Malcolm Brogdon, right? The offensive dynamic was strange. It felt like just the Jays had it going, but besides those guys, the offense struggled. I got to get deeper into the numbers on this one, but it doesn't feel like there's a lot of ball movement to start the season. It seems like find the matchup we want, create enough space so the guy who has a favorable matchup could do his work. Usually that's okay. We have such a gifted group of guys here, especially on the offensive end, that most guys can get any shot they want. But this one pass into an ISO thing just isn't going to be sustainable all year. You need the ball to pick up momentum. You need to have multiple drives and kicks. You need to have skip passes, the swing, the ball flying around the perimeter. That's when the offense is at its best. We saw the Timberwolves come out in the second half, turn up the intensity, and really bog the Celtics offense down. And earlier I said this is a game this team misses Malcolm Brogdon, which is true. There was countless times last year where he saved this team's butt on the offensive end. But let's talk about a guy who was actually still on the team in Derek White. Because he's been that guy this year. He's been instant offense, whether that's him creating a shot for himself or him playmaking for others. Derek White was missed tonight. He was missed last game, and I hope to see him back soon. So we know Derek White could help this late game offense, but you know who else can? Kristaps Porzingis. Where was Kristaps Porzingis in the fourth quarter in overtime? Where was he? He disappeared, but I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think Joe put him in the corner. Tatum and Brown a little bit too much hero ball. It didn't make a lot of sense having Kristaps so uninvolved late down the stretch here. You're playing the Timberwolves. You're playing Gobert. As much slander as Gobert gets, he is an elite rim protector. You need to pull him away from the basket. Get Kristaps involved in the action. And another thing on KP, I'm not trying to be too harsh here, but after that Miami game, when he went up against Bam gave him a bit of trouble. I was interested to see how he would do against these higher tier centers going forward. Last episode after the Brooklyn game, you'll remember I said I was excited to see this stretch. He was going to play Cat, he's going to play Rudy, he's going to play Joel. And kind of like the Miami game where he struggled on defense against Bam, he struggled against Rudy tonight. A little out of position, picking up fouls, getting outworked on the boards. He got a little bit exploited tonight, which isn't a huge concern to me because his skill set is so unique. These centers aren't equipped to guard a guy like him. He's so elite at what he does do that it should counterbalance any areas he's exploited in, and that's what the Celtics just got to do. They got to get him involved more. They got to look for him more, and that's all for KP tonight. So how did you guys feel about Joe not calling a timeout there in the fourth, and then that whole Anthony Edwards run? Late in the fourth there, I was okay with that. I thought Jalen shook off McDaniels, got a good look. It just didn't fall. But an OT there when Ant was tearing it up, it was just a little bit too late for my liking. Joe basically let the crowd start chanting MVP before a timeout was called. And you know when the MVP chant started, it's too late at that point. But while I don't agree with it, I definitely understand it. It's game 6 into the year, and Joe was just trying to let these guys figure it out. You know, using tonight as a learning experience, whether that's for the team or for himself. He could look back at that and say, okay, in that situation again, if that ever happens, I need to call a timeout. Late game offense has always been this team's kryptonite. If they're able to master that, they'd practically be unbeatable. But I'm not ready to say that previous year's problems have carried over. I do think Drew Holiday and Kristaps are like a heart transplant for this team, and I just think it's going to take some time. I need a good sample size. I need like 30 games, 7 or 8 crunch time games to be able to decide. Other than the Kristaps stuff, there's not too much to complain about on the defensive end of the ball. It just happens to be that Anthony Edwards got off tonight, so that's what we're going to talk about next. I mean, how effortlessly athletic is this guy? He glides around the floor. He gets his pull-up jumper off over everybody. He spacewalks to the rim on his drives. His decision-making is almost there. You saw at the end of the game, those doubles gave him a little bit of problems, right? But he's right there. He's just on the verge of figuring it out. Next year, maybe, but just even by the end of this year, by the playoff run, this guy, he's super special. I'm excited to see what his future's like. I feel like we have to address the Cat stuff. If there's any Timberwolves fans listening, please, in the comments, let me know how you feel about Cat. I watched him a lot throughout his whole career. I've been a fan since high school, but tonight I was just super disappointed with how he played and his role in the team. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You guys remember those NBA GM surveys where there'd be the question of who do you want to build your franchise around? And there was those years, like 2 or 3 years, where Cat was the runaway winner. And now what? He just turned into a spot-up shooter. He shot 1 for 7 from 3 tonight. It's always interesting when a big who has a decent post game and a good mid-range game starts off the game by shooting 2 threes, right? When that happened, I just knew what type of night it would be for Cat. One of the worst parts about Cat's game tonight is that he had Drew on him, right? Drew is one of the best defenders in the league. Don't get me wrong, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders. I don't understand why Cat was having a hard time exploiting the Drew matchup, or why the team wasn't putting him in position to exploit the Drew matchup. Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe Drew could just legitimately guard 1 through 5 now. Either way, I think a game like tonight, holding Cat to 7 points, ultimately helps Drew's all-defensive case. T-Wolves fans, what do you want? Do you want Randall? Do you want McCollum in pieces? Do you want Cat on your team? Do you want Naz Reid to flourish? You can't trade Gobert, right? It just, you guys gave up way too much to trade Gobert. If you want to build around Ant, the guy who probably has the most value is Cat, I assume. So it's just an interesting situation. The team's payroll is super expensive, and I don't think they're good enough. They're a good team, and their future is bright, but I don't think their team is good enough to justify what they're paying everybody. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Cat going forward. If there's anybody from the T-Wolves fan base here, let me know what you think. Some quick hits. I've been asking to see Lamar Stevens. We saw him for 4 minutes. That's really all there is to say about that. My Peyton Pritchard prediction from last episode, we're going to ignore that, act like that never, ever happened. Hit on JB. He was good, efficient, and what I was most impressed by, he showed some real flashes of legitimate playmaking. I'm probably the only Celtics postgame not to talk a lot about Jason Tatum, but that's all right because we talk about Tatum a lot every single episode. Big body drives are still there, efficient in the mid-range, 3-ball is back, and as I said earlier, too much hero ball, late game decision making wasn't great. It's growing pains. I'll live with it. Big game coming up. Philly has been torching. Maxey and Embiid have been doing their thing. As much as I hate Philly, I got to give them their props. And as I always say when it comes to these big matchups with these elite centers, I'm excited to see what KP does. Wrap it up right there. If you enjoyed what I'm doing, like, comment, subscribe. If not, it is no big deal. And by the way, I'm super tired. So if this sucked or none of it made sense, we're gonna move past it. I'll be here after every single Celtics game. I will see you guys November 8th, Philly. Peace.